All right. Are we live? We're all over the place. Okay, it looks like we're live. Are we live? It says we're live. Okay, let's assume we're live. You want to go on Facebook and see if we're live?
Sure.
We're checking to see if we're live.
Mhm.
I'm checking
Yep,
my pulse.
we're live.
Okay, so I'm alive and we're live. All right, good. All right. Hey, welcome. I'm Keith. This is Gayle, and it is a Tuesday evening, rather balmy for mid-November here in St. Louis. And we are here to talk about stress and when your partner pushes you over while you're trying to talk, it's stressful. And yeah, so anyway, we have fun together. So anyway, we're going to kind of vamp a little bit while people start to come in, but we're going to try and do the impossible this evening. We are going to try to talk about stress management and stress relief without getting into politics or specifics. And we ask you to do the same thing. So we invite you to make comments below. We'll do our best to keep track of comments, but yes, below. But to be honest, I have not used this software since the pandemic when I did the live shows with my puppets and stuff. So I don't remember how to, I'm amazed it all still works, to be honest. But I don't remember how to see the comments and all that stuff, but Gail's got her phone up. So we invite you to make comments. Just be respectful. Let's not do political. Let's not do anything specific. If you have specific concerns or questions, you can always use Messenger. And if we see it while we're live, maybe we'll address it without saying any names, or we'll contact you afterwards. But anyway, and the other impossible thing we're going to do is try to fit everything that each of us knows about stress management into about half an hour. We don't want to go too much longer than that, maybe 40 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Maybe 20 minutes, I don't know. But we could easily do a complete weekend retreat, couldn't we?
Easily.
And have content left over as well. So those are the two impossibilities. So
We'll
we're
talk
going
really
to
fast.
we'll talk really fast. That's right. So you brace yourselves. Um, so
Should we,
the
should we start with introductions?
we should start. Yeah, why not? Let's do yes because that's number 3 here. Okay,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
go ahead.
Oh,
So introduce yourself.
oh. I'm Health Coach Gayle. I'm a certified health coach and behavior change specialist and personal fitness trainer. My company is Y Powered Health Coaching. I've been doing this work passionately for 10 years now. And I primarily work with women in midlife to help them live with more vitality and energy, getting their health habits in better balance, stress management, mindset, habits. We work on returning to the happy weight, but it's way more than weight loss. Doing that without any extremes or gimmicks. We work on making healthier whole food choices, getting and staying more physically active, and those stress responses. But it's really about changing the relationship with yourself and saying no to diets. So that's basically it. But yeah,
Okay.
that's me.
All right. And I'm Keith Hadrell. I think and I know things. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, you'll like that. But anyway, I am a certified master hypnotist, a certified master practitioner of NLP. I'm an intuitive. I have certain gifts that I bring to the table on the mental space. So, whereas Gail, she does work a lot in the mental space, but she coaches people a lot on what they eat and how they move and all of that stuff. I really delve deep into the subconscious mind and how the subconscious beliefs, the subconscious thought patterns and habits that we have, the subconscious triggers, all of that stuff really kind of affect us. And I help people to overcome these self limiting beliefs, these triggers, the stress management, but way beyond stress management. So, yeah, that's where we are. So, I would like to start by talking about, which we're calling it stress, but really we're talking about any negative emotion. So if it's a feeling of anxiety, which is kind of generalized fear, or a specific fear, if you're sad, feelings of depression, um,
Grief.
grief, anger, just anything like that, we can all lump into what we call stress. And I will tell you my favorite definition of stress, and it's my favorite because I'm pretty sure I'm the one who came up with it. But stress is our mental, emotional, and even physiological response to perceived threats. Perceived threats. All right. And what I mean by that is our minds, especially our primitive minds, are anthropologically, meaning long time ago we were programmed to always be looking for threats. And that's why we have kind of a built-in negative bias. So when something happens, especially if it's beyond our control, we tend to think in terms of what's the worst case scenario, what's going to happen here. And the issue with that, while it is a great design to help us survive in the times of saber-toothed tigers and mammoths and warring tribes and all of that stuff, in today's society, which hopefully is going to last a little while longer, it is it's a little over the top. It's a little extreme. We get into black and white thinking, and we literally tend to create 90% of the stress that we feel ourselves. We create it between our ears, in our mind. We take a few data points. Like if you look up at the night sky and you see a constellation of stars, and like one, my favorite is Orion the Hunter. He's in the winter sky, and you literally pick him out with 7 stars, 7 points of light. But in the olden days, they created an entire story, a whole folklore around Orion the Hunter. Now, granted, in the olden days, you could see more stars that made it more obvious or whatever. But still, we tend to take these singular data points and we build a story, and it's typically a very negative based story. And we start predicting the future as, oh, this is what's going to happen. And then we get into a very negative space, or a very, I'm sorry, very black and white space, where it's always going to be this way, or it'll never be this way, the way I want it, or everything is wrong, or nothing is right. And it's all very, very absolute thinking. And and let's go one step further. The extremism is black and white thinking on steroids, isn't it? And we have a lot of extremism in our nation in all kinds of spaces, not just in the political space, but we just I think social media over the years and all kinds of influences in our modern life have led to extremism that causes this black and white thinking. So here's the first thing I want to challenge you with is if there is extreme thinking from other people that is really upsetting you, I challenge you to take a moment and look in the mirror or pretend you're looking in the mirror and see what extreme or black and white thinking you're doing. What story are you building in your own mind based on what that person said? For example, my mother was a wonderful woman. She was a very loving woman. She, like all of us, had certain issues and certain triggers. And bless her heart, she is one of the reasons why I devoted a big portion of my life to healing, the healing arts, and coaching others. And there would be times when I would be on my way home from school and I would know my mom was home, and I would start building a story in my mind, regardless of what mood my mom was in or how she was feeling that day. On the way home from school, I would build this story, this whole scenario, this fight that would happen. And by the time I got home, I was angry with her, no matter what mood she was in. And I realized that I was doing that to her. And especially after like the third time, she said, "Why are you so mad at me? What did I do?" And I started, that was kind of one of my earlier lessons in how we create these kind of issues. And Mom, I miss you dearly, and I'm apologize again for doing that. But it's just one example of how we fill in the blanks with the most negative possibilities. The other thing I'd like to say is, and the tools we're both going to give are, um, they're easier said than done. They're going to take a little practice, a little getting used to. We're here to help you if you want, but we encourage you to start them today. And one of the things is, if you are feeling stressed in any way, interrupt the pattern. Leave the space that you're in. And a lot of stress managers will stop there. Just stop, take a few breaths, and that's it. Just interrupt the pattern and things will be better. But I feel that you have to do a little more than that, sometimes a lot more than that. Leave the space entirely. Now, if you go to another room and you're still upset, leave the house. If you leave the house and you're still upset, go to a different neighborhood, go to a park, something like that. Um, get out of the space you're in, whether it's a head space or a physical space, and then start asking yourself a few questions. It's like, what am I bringing to this? If it's a fight with someone, or if it's something that's stressing you out at work or with a child or whatever it is, the holidays, whatever, and just start breaking down, okay, what is really bothering me and how can I change that? What is the meaning that it has to me? And what does it really mean to me? And why is this upsetting me so much? I'm a big fan of journaling, actually, and I've got software in my laptop that I type faster than I write now. So I just kind of, sometimes when I'm feeling that way, I'll just journal. And a lot of my journal entries are like, I don't know why I'm upset, but here goes. And then it's just kind of stream of consciousness. And you get warmed up, and these things, you start unpacking everything that is stacked up on you. And that's usually when we hit crisis, is when these things stack up on us. Okay, I feel like I could go on and on and on, but
Well,
go ahead, Gail.
well, that's a really great tool that you shared, Keith. And one thing that I wanted to suggest as well, that's a kind of in the moment tool. One perspective that can help as well, kind of stepping away from it and reframing things, is considering the things that you can control and the things that you cannot. So if you step back from whatever it is that's stressing you, and even take that journaling time and literally make two lists. Maybe one page is a list of the things that you can control, and then a second page of the things that you cannot. And I'll give an example just to sort of get you started. Things that you might be able to control in your life would include things like how you treat others, your attitude that you bring to every day, whether it's your job that's stressing you out or a relationship or whatever it might be. The things that you eat, that's generally in most people's control. And there are so many things about that can then contribute to your mood, how you feel about your body, for example. If you're eating a whole food plant-based diet or a fast food ultra processed food diet, that can contribute greatly to your anxiety and feelings of stress and depression. You can control just generally how you treat your body. Are you turning to food to quell anxiety in the moment? Or are you prioritizing being active? And that is one of our most underutilized forms of management for feelings of anxiety and depression. Yes, it takes effort. Sure, it's easier to rely on medication to quell depression. Just take a pill. But studies have proven that doing things like a daily walk is just as effective, if not more, than relying on medication. And there's so many more benefits of a daily walk than and no side effects versus medication. Other things you can control: setting boundaries, how quickly you bounce back from things that might happen to you that maybe aren't so positive. Generally, your behavior you can control. Anyway, you can make your own list. But then you can make that second list, the things that you can't control, and saying, okay, I can learn to just kind of release these and say they're not for me to stress out about. Things that have already happened, the past, they're gone. I need to let them go. How other people behave, uh, what other people think. I have no control about that. I don't even know what that is. Other people's actions, how other people behave. So you get the idea. So making those two lists and then focusing on how you're responding and reacting to those things.
Well,
So
and one of the challenges is a lot of this is counterintuitive. It doesn't feel natural. Um, and trying to remember three things that I thought of from what Gayle said. And the number one, going back to what I said about stories, when you remove yourself from the space and start asking yourself questions, what does this mean to me and stuff? Another question that you need to ask yourself is, okay, what is an actual data point and what else have I just assumed or filled in or created a story? For example, I had a client who was stressed all the time because she felt like the boss didn't recognize her, respect her. It just seemed like he was always had that look on his face when she was talking and didn't pay any attention to her, etc. And when we worked on it, we said, well, what are some other ways to interpret that data point? Because you're acting like you're reading his mind. It could be that look on his face is that you always have your meetings after Taco Tuesday. And he's just trying to hold it all in, right?
it's indigestion.
Right, exactly. And if he is not looking at you, it could be that he is genuinely tuned into what you're saying and really considering it. He just doesn't know how to say, okay, I hear you, that's interesting. Or he may have his own insecurity, right? And he may think, okay, this person is way better than me at this job and someone's going to find out about it. There's all kinds of different ways to interpret things that are not necessarily reality. And one of the drawbacks is if we create a story, well, I'm getting too deep probably, but the reason our minds create stories is to give us a sense of completion and understanding. And it doesn't matter to our mind whether we're accurate or not, as long as it gives us that emotional benefit that we want. Now, along that same lines, Gayle talked about movement and what we eat are two things that we can control.
Yeah.
And when we are stressed, maybe the last thing we want to do is move our bodies. We'd rather just be couch commander with that remote and get out that carton of ice cream. And those things feel really good in the moment, right?
Or that beer or
bottle
glass of wine.
Right, exactly. And
those false friends.
Right. And again, we could talk a lot about that. But they are false friends, aren't they?
Yeah.
And quite often you end up feeling worse, both physically for what you've eaten or put in your body, but you also feel worse about yourself. You feel regret or you feel shame or weak for not doing these things. Another story that I just thought of, and we talked about it the other day. Can I share the one that I shared in the video the other day? So when I was helping to train people like me in Sedona, a woman came up to me in the lobby of the conference center and said, maybe you can help me. I'm the odd one out where I work. Everyone else is so much younger than I am, and they all go out drinking, most nights and stuff, and I just go home alone, and I go through half a bottle or more of wine every night, and I just can't seem to stop it. And what would you say to me? And I just kind of read her language, listened to her language patterns, but read her body language, looked into her eyes, and I said, you're drinking for companionship. You just told me you feel like the odd one out. Now, I didn't say this, but I also want to point out, she said, they all go out. Well, did they all go out? I don't know. I wasn't there, but there's absolute thinking. I'm the odd one out, always. They all go out. and exclude me. And it may be that she just didn't want to go out, but she didn't know what else to do. So anyway, she was drinking for companionship. And when I offered that to her, her jaw dropped. And she says, I even pour a little glass for my dog. It's like, okay. So instead of opening the bottle next time, just draw a little face on it, put it next to you or between you and the dog, and watch TV with it. And in the meantime, find other ways for a social life afterward. So, in other words, the reason I say that is the wine, it wasn't about the wine, was it? It's not about the ice cream. It's not about the wine. It's not about the cigarette, whatever it is you reach for. It's about what the emotional payoff is that you're going for in the short term. And unfortunately, we're thinking in terms of short term instead of our long term higher reasoning that would lead us to believe, if I become a more physically fit person, if I take time to meditate or journal, or things that seem like effort when we don't want to do effort, those in the long run help us to combat any kind of stress so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
A couple of that's a really powerful story. A couple of points I wanted to be sure and share. In this whole stress management practice, it is a practice. Nobody is, really adept at it all of the time. And getting ahead of our stress is really important because it's always there. It's an undercurrent of so many things, emotion driven eating, especially. But the Mayo Clinic tells us it's rooted in 75% of all doctor visits and visits to urgent care, which is huge. And, I think in our society, which is so productivity driven, we tend to kind of slough it aside, and we just say, oh, I'm so busy. And, we almost wear our stress and busyness like a badge of honor and don't really pay that much attention to it. And that's part of why high blood pressure, which is driven often by overworking and over everything, is driven by stress, is called the silent killer. Anyway, the proactive stress management techniques that I help people with are so important, getting ahead of that. But really, the practice is about keeping the chaos of everyday life and the pressures, keeping it outside of ourselves, not letting it seep inside, and responding to life instead of always reacting to it, and being in charge of our priorities, not always just reacting to things. So that's important, and keeping our priorities and our self-care up here, and not letting our self-care slip quietly down, and and waiting for our health to
deteriorate.
to deteriorate, and then react when alarm bells start going off, like when we get a diabetes diagnosis, or something else that says, hey, pay attention, because you haven't been. That's the worst. And unfortunately, that's what happens for a lot of people. They just neglect and let their health slowly slip down on the priority list every day until their bodies go, hey, pay attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we want to do is thrive in this lifetime, not just survive. And everyone here listening to this, we all survived the pandemic, and that's a big thing. And now we're surviving other hardships of one kind or another. A lot of the things we can't see, but I think we're all kind of getting through one thing or another. And kindness, not just to others, but to ourselves, is so important. And one of the things that I teach and I hope inspire people to do is to offer kindness to themselves through self-care. And I help people understand that you cannot beat yourself into change. And the really most effective doorway is through self-love and self-care, and that self-preservation is a form of, that, and prioritizing your self-care is the most, it's a beautiful form of self-love. Our relationship with ourselves is the most important one we'll ever have.
And it's the most difficult
It
one for most of
is.
us.
It
It's
is.
self-love, unfortunately, is very difficult,
It is.
especially when there's always been the keeping up with the Joneses, but now we keep up with the social media
Oh,
idealism
gosh.
and all that stuff.
Where
And
everyone's perfect
right.
and
And I'm kind of laughing at us a little bit because we're kind of all over the place. We each do our own kind of curriculum and we keep bouncing back and forth. But we both agreed we weren't going to stress about how we were going to do this live, right? But yeah, and she said something very important that I say in all my stress management talks is that she said that a lot of people just kind of accept being stressed. And I'll say that there are people out there who feel they need to be stressed in order to be
yeah.
productive and successful. But there's also another side of stress for a lot of people that most of us don't even realize the amount of stress we're feeling. There's the story of the boiled frog. I don't know what kind of cruel mad scientist came up with this, and hopefully it's just a theory. But the theory is that if you dropped a frog in a pot of boiling water, he would hop out immediately, and it would hurt,
Mm.
but he would survive it. But if you put a frog in a pan of just room temperature water and then heated it up slowly, the frog would never leap out until it was literally boiled to death. And I kind of hate that analogy because I love animals, but it really is and can be how stress can work. It comes on so slowly and so nefariously that we really don't know. We're used to it as it gets more and more and more
Yeah.
until we hit some kind of crisis point.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I what I'd like to do. Do you have more to say, or okay? So
Mm-hmm.
if you want, we can do a guided visualization if we have anyone there. And if you hear talking about stress in the household, we had 3 adult cats, and we decided to adopt a kitten. And the 3 adult cats keep looking at us with their arms folded and anger on their faces because the kitten always wants to play, and the adult cats are like, can't you just read a book or something? And I don't know if you can hear the meows and the roars and all that stuff, but it's
The
off
kitten
here.
doesn't know how to read.
The kitten can't even read the room, basically, is what's happening. So we have some of that going on. But anyway, if you're still with us, or if you're on the recording, that hopefully this is recording. If it's not recording, we're going to be really stressed out about it. But if you want to just make yourself comfortable and lean back in your chair, and yeah, just start with a nice deep breath, hold it briefly, and let it out slowly. And if you're in the car and someone else is driving, don't let them listen to this. But anyway, it's not going to be full hypnosis, just a guided visualization. But when you're ready, take another deep breath, hold it. That's right. And let it out slowly, just feeling yourself starting to relax. Good. And when you're ready, take the deepest breath of all. Hold it briefly, and this time you should let it out. If you haven't already, allow your eyes to go closed, listening to the sound of my voice. Direct your attention to the chair you are seated in. Notice how you're supported comfortably and completely. There's nothing left for you but simply to relax. That's right. Start to relax a little more with every breath you exhale, every word that I say. And if your hands are clasped together or your hands are busy with something, just let your left hand be loose on your leg. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to start lifting that left hand as slowly as you can possibly lift it. Don't try to rush it. Don't worry about it too much, but lift that hand as slowly as you can possibly lift it, and go ahead and start that now. That's right, just as slowly as you can lift it. And as you continue to let that hand lift and rise and lift, and yes, there will be distractions around your home. That's all right. Let each and every sound you hear just serve as a reassurance that the world is going to continue to live and vibrate around you. That's all right. Let the world be and do whatever it wants to be and do without you. This moment is all about you, and in this moment, you want total and complete relaxation. Direct your attention to your right foot. Notice how it rests comfortably on the floor or wherever you left it. Perhaps you notice how your left foot feels. Direct your attention to your right fingertips. Notice what they feel. That's right. Your left hand, you may have taken your mind off of it, but let it continue to lift and rise. Rise and lift. Slowly, surely. Now, in a moment, I would like you to imagine that just as your hand has been lifting and rising and lifting, that you can exit your body. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to let your left hand lower as slowly as you possibly can. But as you do so, allow your spirit, allow your mind to just lift itself out of your body now, allowing your right hand or your left hand to go back down as slowly as you possibly can. And just imagine what it would be like if your mind could rise, lift and rise above your body until you can look down and see yourself sitting in the chair you were seated in, or lying on the bed, or wherever you happen to be. That's right. And if you don't visualize it, that's okay. Just have the idea of it. If you're looking down at your body below. And since your body is safely sat in the chair that supports you comfortably and completely, it's safe now to lift and rise higher above. And imagine yourself lifting and rising through the ceiling, and lifting and rising through the roof of your house or the building that you're in. And imagine what it would be like to see that roof of the building that you're in from directly above. If it's dark around where you are, notice the moon, notice the stars, the clouds, or whatever. The rain doesn't bother you if it's raining, because you are simply mind, you are simply spirit. Continue to lift and rise and lift higher above until you start to see the houses around your house. You start to see your block. You start to see the neighborhood around your house, or the farmland, or the community, whatever it is. As you continue to lift and rise and lift, higher and higher, you see the whole area in which you live, whether it's a metropolitan area, a rural area. And if it's nighttime like it is here in St. Louis, you see the jeweled city lights below. Rise and lift and rise as if you were in an airplane now, going straight up higher and higher until you start to see the entire state that you live in, or the states that surround your city. Lift higher and higher until you see the entire country. That's right, you're neither warm nor cold. Everything is absolutely peaceful. It's only your spirit, only your mind. You're completely safe. You're completely free. All the worldly problems and that stressed out body, those are far, far below. And as you lift higher and higher, you start to see the curvature of the earth, the clouds below you, the beautiful blue oceans, the snow-capped mountains, the prairies. You see where the sunlight ends and the nightness starts. That's right. And from this space high above the earth, just take a look at the world we live on. This shiny blue and green marble floating through space. And from this vantage point, every problem is so minuscule. Every problem is so tiny. Up here is total and complete peace. And as you start to feel this total and complete peace, this complete removal, this separation from all the craziness below, you see it as craziness from this vantage point. You see it as nothing more than temporary circumstances. Just breathe it away. Take in the stars, the moonlight. See the sunlight. It's no longer hidden by the earth. Just make a little promise to yourself with a little word. You could say in your mind, relax, or let go, or whatever mantra word you want to use to help you come back to this space, high, high above the earth, away from the earth where you can see the earth and the heavens. And just lock this in. Create that mantra word, whatever it is for you is right for you. And just know that you can come back to this space whenever you need to, just by thinking or saying that word out loud. And the more you practice this, the better it will work for you. Each and every time you get there faster, with more and more deeply relaxing states of being. That's right. And as we start to drift back down, slowly and comfortably, we remind ourselves that everything that is swirling below on that crazy earth is all created, most of it's created between our ears, based on different data points. Almost all of it is temporary. Almost all of it is localized circumstance. And pretty much everything will be okay, one way or another. As you continue to drift down closer and closer to the earth, you start to see the borders of the country, and you continue to drift down, but this time take some power with you. The power of knowing that you can release your spirit, your soul, your mind to that special place whenever you need to, whenever you want to. And you bring that feeling of peace back with you. That's right. Now low enough to recognize your local region, your metropolitan area, your rural community. Further down to your neighborhood, till you can find your house or whatever building you're in. settling yourself through the roof and back down into your body. And once you're back down into your body, just take a nice deep cleansing breath. And I'll leave you with one more thought before we open our eyes, and that is, if you worry, will the future change? If you worry, will the future change? And let that be the question you can also use as a mantra as you go forward from this evening. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Come back to the here and now. And we would like to thank you all for joining us. And we hope we've... Are you back? Take your time coming back. But thank you for joining us. And we hope we've brightened some lives out there and lessened some stress. We all have plenty of things to be stressed about, scared of. And just know that you have power. You have strength. You ultimately have more control than you think you do for what happens between your ears, where most of the stress takes place. Anything you want to add?
Namaste.
Namaste. Actually, I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Now we're going to figure out how to finish being live through the software. All right. Have a good night, everyone.